Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another edition of From the Pressbox with Wade Neely. I'm your host, Pulaski Citizen Sports Editor Wade Neely, rocking my finest Michigan apparel as the Wolverines have got the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. More on that coming up a little bit later at the end of our program. But man, good to be back with you guys. We had a 2-week hiatus. I ate way too much at the Thanksgiving dinner table. And so we had to postpone last week's show. I do apologize about that. But we are back. We burned off all the calories, got everything, all the turkey and dressing out of our system here. So now it's full speed ahead. We've got an action-packed show today. UT Southern videographer and photographer Guy Schaefer will sit down with us and talk really a 20-minute conversation about just life in general. This guy has seen it all. He's covered it all. He's done a lot of great things, and he loves the city of Pulaski. You will not find a more dedicated and hardworking individual than when we talk about Guy Schaefer. So fun to catch up with him. He's a good friend of the program, and he's always a hoot to sit down with. So catching up with him was always a treat. Real quickly, diving into some headlines. Giles County football has been eliminated, and Alcoa is your state champion. I know that will not really come as a surprise to anybody. Giles County put up a good fight a couple of weeks ago, maybe even trending toward their best effort against Alcoa. And then, unfortunately, tragedy strikes. Second quarter early. Johnny Jackson, quarterback for Giles County, goes out on a kind of a trick play. They run the Wildcat with Kamari Turner, and as he runs to the right, Jackson got rolled up and suffered an ankle injury, lower body injury, and so he was out for the rest of the game. And the Bobcat offense kind of went by the wayside at that point. They scored on that drive, their only points of the night, but GCHS falls in that one. 38-7 is your final. Alcoa goes on and wins, dominating East Nashville. So third straight year, Giles County has lost to Alcoa. Third straight year, East Nashville has lost to Alcoa. I wish there was a way, even if nothing else, the semifinals would be electric to see East Nashville and Giles meet on that side of the bracket because it's just not fun seeing your squad go up. And even though they're well coached, even though Giles County is a phenomenal team, they are just not, unfortunately, in the class that Alcoa is at playing at right now. 9 straight 3A titles. More on Alcoa in next week's edition of the Pulaski Citizen. That's a little tease in the biz, folks. Football's out. That means basketball is back. Kamari Turner returned to the hardwood in a big way. He had 5 3-pointers in a win versus Fayetteville. He had 5 3-pointers in a win versus Shelbyville. And this kid continues to shine for GCHS. They did not have him this week, however, including a game that we just did on Tuesday night over at Lincoln County. Kamari has been selected to play in that East-West All-Star Game Classic, so he's been up in Clarksville getting prepared for that. Also, a tip of the cap to our good friend, and man, what a legend, Amari Smith, offensive tackle for GCHS. He was injured late in the postseason, and so he's not going to be able to play in that game, but he was chosen, so salute to you, Smoke, on that honor there. Giles County men pick up right where they've left off here. Keep your eyes on the Bobcats. They're going to be fun to watch as this year rolls along. The Lady Bobcats still seeking their first win. Coach Steger's trying to get out there, trying to get that lineup combination just right, but they haven't been able to do so as they fell last week to Fayetteville and Shelbyville on the road, fell to Spring Hill Monday night of this week at home, and then unfortunately was on the wrong end of a 63-6 defeat to Lincoln County on Tuesday night. Kai Gibson had all 6 points for GCHS. They were shut out in the first, third, and fourth quarters. It was a tough night. But team's getting better. Team is young, very young, in fact. And I know Coach Steger, he's a veteran coach. He'll have them in the right direction before far too long. Richland Lady Raiders, I got to give a shout-out to our man, Chad Hall. We call him the Chadillac. We've been thinking about you, brother. We've been missing you on the sidelines. He's recovering from a medical procedure. Hopefully he's back sooner than later. Richland got wins last week in ladies action versus East Robertson last Tuesday, and then followed up with the win Friday versus Mount Pleasant. He missed this week's game Tuesday night versus Loretto. Hopefully going to get him back on the saddle and in action on Saturday when they take on Zion Christian Academy. So, again, we've been thinking about you, Chadillac. On the other side of the Richland equation, boys are playing well. Did lose to Loretto Tuesday night, but Loretto's a very good 2A team. They had nothing but underclassmen last year, and now so they've got a bevy of upperclassmen on their roster. So no shame in that loss. And again, Richland picked up a massive win versus East Robertson last Tuesday. And East Robertson, the defending state tournament quarterfinalists, and they won it 2 years prior. So that's a good win. I know East Robertson didn't have their football program or football players eligible for that game because they were competing in the state championship, but a win is a win is a win, and that'll be a good win late in the season, I think, on the resume for Coach Lovelace and the gang. And speaking of tournament resumes, I got to salute our good buddy and former guest, longtime reoccurring guest, if you will, Will Austin. He's the UT Southern women's soccer head coach. Firehawks make a magical run. Maybe didn't have a Final Four caliber roster this year. They had a young team as well, but they make a Cinderella run. They go all the way to the semifinals. They fall 7-3 to William Carey. They actually led that match 2-0 before William Carey takes a 3-2 lead in before halftime, and then 7-3 is your final score. But I just wanted to sneak in that shout out because Coach Austin has a tremendous coaching job. Lost so much talent from the last 2 years after they won it all 2 years ago. And to be able to retool that roster and now get to the semifinals, that's an achievement in and of itself. The NAI National Tournament is a hard place to win a game, and they drew the first one. They won in penalty kicks versus Benedictine, but then they knocked off Central Methodist in the second. Tournament seeds, William Carey ends up losing in the championship game. Tell you how hard it is. William Carey looks like the odds-on favorite to win it all every year. And they come up empty. They fall in penalty kicks themselves. University of Cumberland ends up winning it. So your Final Four, you got the 12th-seeded Firehawks, but then the other seeds were 1, 2, and 3. So it was truly a good run, and we wanted to make sure we snuck in a shout-out for UTS. Speaking of the Firehawks, on the other side of this timeout, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will sit down with one of our all-time favorites. He's videographer and photographer for the Firehawks. He's none other than our favorite Canadian, Guy Schaefer. So sit tight, folks. We'll be back with Guy Schaefer on the other side of this timeout. You are listening and watching another episode of From the Press Box with Wade Neely. Back right after.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back, folks. As promised, I tracked him down. He is the man, the myth, the legend. He's UT Southern photographer and videographer. He's our good friend, Guy Schaefer.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome to From the Press Box, my friend. How you doing?
Man, it feels weird to be on this side of the land. It's good to be here.
Man, we're delighted to have you. We wanted to bring you in, and you and I were just talking off camera. Where do we really go with this segment? And
exactly.
The cool thing, I think, is that we can take this a number of different directions. So I think we'll talk a little Giles County football and basketball.
Yeah.
You were there for the state tournament run in hoops last year. You were there for a lot of the playoff football games this year.
Yeah.
Get into UT Southern. They got to the National Final Four in women's soccer this year. And, you know, mysteriously, you and I are also wearing collegiate colors in a sense here. Michigan's going to play Alabama. So,
yeah, I don't usually have very many Alabama colors. This vest my daughter actually got me for Christmas a couple of years ago. But when I was looking at your Michigan over there, me and a couple students had just been talking that they felt like this could be the national championship game, which I can't really argue with them.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. Hold your horses on the CFB talk, so to speak. But let's dive right in, Guy. We want to talk to you. You've obviously been our Citizen of the Week, our Citizen Spotlight a couple months ago. So we wanted to kind of take this opportunity to shine. I guess first things first, for those that haven't had a chance to, if for some reason the two remaining people in Giles County that haven't met you, you do photo and video for UT Southern, but you also do a lot more. How would you kind of describe yourself to what you do and what you provide to our community?
Yeah, one of the things I've done over the past few years anyways, now there's more people that are available, but I would just go and cover events just so, for example, the chamber could have a copy of Mingle Jingle or something on video. I've done some of the youth sports in town. I actually remember, this is a number of years ago now, but a lady had put on Facebook, said, we really need someone to come and take photos of the Minor Hill Rodeo beauty pageant. And I thought, well, that's kind of random.
Yeah.
I've never done that. So I called the lady up, or I texted her on Facebook, and I said, hey, I'd be happy to come and do it. And that really got me out into the community again. I thought, I need to do more of this. I really enjoyed it. So I shot the Minor Hill Rodeo and all the different events, and the little beauty pageant, which was a lot of fun. So I like to get out, and I describe a lot of what I do, Wade, is just capturing moments, making memories.
Absolutely. And you do such great work. The community really is in your debt in that regard for what you provide for us. You do have a sporting background, though, and you and I have, we've been sharing war stories over the years, and soccer background, I believe, but also obviously from Canada. So tell us about your hockey experience as well.
Well, it was more like playground basketball. It was just guys going out on the ponds over the winters and stuff like that. But I did play organized hockey until I was probably 12 or 13. And then, you just concentrate on school and stuff. But we always played on frozen ponds. Always played. My father was a fire chief. And so every winter he would get some of the guys in the truck. They'd come out to a field, they'd scrape it off, and then they would just use the fire truck and make a rink for us. So we always had some place to skate. It was a lot of fun. And, when you're up there and it's 10, 20, 30 below zero, you still go out and play hockey. So it didn't matter how cold it got.
Wow. I'm getting chills just thinking about that. And I just recently, we celebrated my girlfriend's birthday at the skating rink in Brentwood, and that's on 4 wheels. Can you put into context for people how more difficult ice skating is than regular traditional wheel skating?
Yeah. So the first time I roller skated, I was 19. It was after my freshman year in college, and a bunch of these guys were going to this roller rink. And so I was curious. I wonder what this will be like. So you get on the 4 wheels. It's actually quite stable. And I was going a little bit too fast, and I went to stop, and my instincts to stop like a hockey player did. So you turn your blade sideways, and I shot straight through the air, and I hit my girlfriend in the back with my skates, which was really not planned, but it was pretty funny. But that would be the big difference was in ice hockey. I think you can, once you kind of figure out how to do it, your start and stops can be quicker, and you can go pretty fast. But having said that, I remember seeing guys on roller skates do stuff like, I thought, how in the world do they do that? They were very, very impressive.
Okay, we fulfilled our obligatory hockey segment. Scott Stewart can rest now. Hey, so we've talked a little bit about your background. How do you end up in Pulaski, Tennessee?
Yeah, so a guy I played hockey with in college, he'd come to Florida. He actually was an American. And we played hockey together for a year, and he was working down in Orlando. And I sort of like off the cuff said, hey, if you hear of something, put my name in. Well, I didn't know he did, but he did. And this guy called me. It was probably 9 or 10 months later. Said, how'd you like to come to Florida and work? And I said, yeah. So I went down. And of course, you have to go through this immigration process and interview and stuff. Long story short, they hired me. And I thought, if I don't like it, I can always go back. Right?
Yeah.
And so 37 years later, I'm still here in the States and stuff. So I worked down there for about another 3 or 4 years. And then I felt like I really wanted to go get my master's degree in communications, which is how I ended up getting into film and photography and stuff. And I did that for a while. And through marriage and moving and stuff, ended up in the Muscle Shoals area.
Yeah.
And while I was there, actually, it was a Pulaski kid, Brad Taylor, said, hey, they're looking for a speech teacher at Martin. And I said, really? So I called up who at the time, I didn't know that we'd become really good friends, was Dr. Kayla Wiggins, who recently passed, but she was just the best. Anyways, walked me through the process. And I remember her telling me one day, Wade, she goes, Guy, these kids are going to love you. I said, how do you know that? She goes, because you're not me. So she had this funny little story about, she said sometimes she got known as the Dragon Lady and all this, but her bark
but mighty.
Yeah, her bark was bigger than her bite because she was just golden. And so it was through Kayla that I ended up coming and teaching speech and stuff here. And I've been here almost 15 years now. So.
That is crazy. And time just has kind of flown by in that regard. And then from there, you mingle and kind of get into the realm of athletics. And I think it's amazing that you kind of come in with a classically trained film background in a sense.
Yes.
But have the framework of athletics behind. And then kind of as things, you and I got to work together when I was at the school for 10 plus years. And really you kind of have morphed into this awesome role where you're kind of capturing, like you said, moments all across campus now.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I've told this story a few times, but back when I came, there wasn't really like a photography department or a staff and stuff. And I always thought, man, it's kind of weird no one takes pictures of these big school events, or sad they don't take pictures. So at the time, I remember I had a little digital camera from Walmart. I just carried it in my pocket. But those pictures, and then we started throwing them on Facebook, and pretty soon people would comment, and then the students started calling me the that's our photo guy.
Yeah.
And
Catchy, huh?
Dr. Jack Gregory had a camera. He said, hey, you can use this. And Grant Vosberg helped me. And so next thing you know, I was showing up at all the events and taking pictures. And I remember the first tournament, I think it was our first year together, you and I. We were going down to Montgomery. Yeah, to Montgomery. And I remember seeing, I said, wow, they take all the pictures from all the teams that go to the conference tournament and they make this really kind of cool brochure. And even back then, a lot of the photography was not that good. You know? And I remember thinking, man, I'm going to make sure I take good pictures next year. And so that's how I kind of ended up getting into lighting and all the stuff that we like to do for those things, just to make our kids look good when they're out in the field of competition or on the court of competition. And I loved it. And of course, with such a large international presence there, a lot of our pictures are going all around the world.
100%, yeah.
For parents and grandparents. So it's kind of cool to do that.
Yeah, for those that have not or don't follow social media for UT Southern, it is fun to go and look at the comments because, that you can get comments from Australia, Israel, Central America, South America, and then obviously Fayetteville, Tennessee, or Pulaski, Tennessee. So it's kind of cool, that microcosm there. I guess if you is there a favorite sport as far as photography or videography that you prefer to shoot, I guess?
Not really, because I do like them all. I still find myself every once in a while looking through a lens and then thinking to myself, man, I love this sport. Softball, because it's so short and so much happens so quickly, surprised me at how interesting that was to shoot. Of course, my second sport growing up outside of baseball, outside of hockey, was actually baseball. I loved it. So I like shooting the baseball here, but you can't beat being indoors and shooting basketball and volleyball too. So they all have their own little merits. I actually went up, I think I remember telling you, but I may not have, but our shooting team had an event up in Nashville a couple of years ago when Chad was still there. And the sporting section of it, it's literally like a 9-hole golf course. You have a certain shot on hole 1. There's a certain thing on number 2. One of them, they roll these clay targets along the ground and they bounce and stuff. And so kids have to shoot them at the right time. And I remember being very fascinated by that whole day. And I always thought, man, I could really get into clay target shooting as far as filming and video too. So it was a lot of fun. So I don't know if I have a favorite. Sport-wise, it's probably baseball I still like the most, just for the competition and the thrill of it and stuff. But man, all our sports here are great. I remember when we started our swimming and our running program with Watson here now. I love going out and covering those guys shooting and running and stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
I'm kind of like you. Sometimes I find myself, whether it's broadcasting or shooting photos for the Citizen, I'm at an event and I'm like, I really don't got a ton of experience, but sometimes those are the most fun because you're learning on the fly and you're trying to figure things out. And that is certainly a thing that I kind of enjoy. So I'm with you on that. Kind of changing gears a little bit, though. You do get on the sidelines for football occasionally, and you've been fortunate enough. We've all been fortunate enough. Giles County and Richland have had some really good programs the last couple of years. What's it been like? We kind of tap into you when we're looking for some real quality stuff, and you've been known to even end up in the booth with the broadcast crew a time or two.
Yeah, I have great respect for what you and the guys do up in that booth because it's not easy calling a game and filling moments where it might have downtime and making it all seem exciting and interesting. I think you and Chris are great together. But yeah, I was down on the sidelines a few times shooting. And actually, that was the first time I shot football and I realized, wow, I really don't know how to shoot football.
Meaning, I'm with you.
Yeah, there's movements and all that sort of stuff that if you don't know football or have never played it, some of it kind of surprised you. I remember thinking, oh man, that was a good shot. And then I went back and looked at it and go, that was not a good shot. But I love being around, especially Giles County football. First of all, I think it's great to be involved in your hometown, right? I just love that part of being in a small town. And my town in Canada was very much like Pulaski. It's 10, 12,000 people, and everybody kind of knew everybody and stuff. So I love that part about Giles County. But, I came here in '09, and you remember what Giles County Bobcat football did that year. So I was very intrigued at how popular that was. Winning that state championship was pretty cool. And you go through a few challenging years and stuff, and then Bobcat's been really tough again the last few years. So it's been fun watching and stuff. And I have great admiration for what goes on behind the scenes. I think that's one of the things that surprised me was how many individuals are involved at coaching level or administration level. It's a very well-oiled machine.
Yeah. This one hits a little closer to home, but what's it like being able to cover a program like UT Southern women's soccer, who now has 20 plus years of national tournament success? They just fell shy in the semifinals, made the semifinals for the 5th year. They were looking for that 4th national championship. What's it like kind of being around a program that if folks are, for some reason, haven't been to a game or are not reading our copy, this is extremely high-level soccer that's being played right here in our backyard. I'm just curious your take on the program.
Yeah, because, Wade, a lot of that stuff, I didn't know how good we were years ago. I remember talking with Jerry Cleary, the year we won the men's championship. And, of course, he'd won 2 championships with the women before that. Man, it's hard to get back to the championship game. Just the amount of dedication they have and the work and stuff. And I know this year, Coach Will Austin, he even said, man, when he brought in 20 new kids this year, it's going to be a real challenge. And not that you never think you're going to go that far, but probably they didn't think they were going to go that far. And
that is a super young team.
Yeah, very young team. That was very, very impressive. And so, again, I have some of those thoughts in my brain when I'm on the sideline shooting and stuff. You just hope you capture the right moments and stuff like that. But kudos to Will and his coaching staff. Man, that was a great year. It was very impressive, a little bit unexpected, and I think it stands them in good stead for next year too.
While we're talking UT Southern, what's it like working with, in the academic realm, a guy like Gene Smith? For those that don't know, Gene Smith, the director of sport management program, former Jacksonville Jaguars general manager. So a lot of folks, there's nothing to do, or Pulaski's a small town. We got some big things going on. The former GM of the Jaguars, you work a little bit with him on campus in a lot of roles, obviously.
Yeah.
What's it like seeing that guy around campus?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We teach together. So, in fact, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he's on right across the hall from where I am.
Mm-hmm.
We teach our classes and stuff. And I think people probably don't understand how cool of a thing that is to have him here. He's been here long enough now. The program has had a number of graduates who have all gone on to do incredible internships and start their careers in sports management. And of course, you and I know some of them. One of them's up with the Titans right now, and he played baseball here for 4 years, and he's been with the Titans for a while. Yeah, Drew's an awesome kid, and a lot of them really have gone on to do really cool things. And I think sometimes, when you're a small town, you go, Gene Smith, I haven't heard of him, and he has very impressive resume. Very impressive. And the kids love him. He's just building into them, helping them find the right opportunities for their internships and possible careers. And, when you have on your resume, former Jacksonville Jaguar general manager, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
So, and the kids love him. He's just great in the classroom, and I get it. I get the benefit by working with him. So it's kind of cool.
It has been exciting to watch that program. Tim Wilson, our colleague,
Yes.
he was there for years and years. He's kind of set the bar high, and it seems like Gene is trying to take it to the next level. Another UT Southern question I want to ask you. You and I ended up at a same event, and this was last summer, and the UT Southern soccer team is getting inducted into the Tennessee State Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And that was a fun moment, and it was very cool. But maybe it wasn't quite the highlight. I remember one particular person, one particular baseball player that you were over the moon to meet. What about the time that you got to meet, who's a friend of the Pulaski Citizen and Pulaski Ties in general, R.A. Dickey, former Cy Young winner?
What's funny thing is I didn't know that much about the guy, but as things happen when you're sitting around on a baseball diamond chatting away, Kelly Bratton started telling me a lot about him and his career and who he's related to and stuff. And so I went back, did a little bit more research, and it was kind of a real cool story. And so anyways, you and I just arrived. I know we were there really for Will and Zach and the UT women's soccer induction. which, by the way, that event was impressive.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was very, very cool.
Brad Willis, got to give him a quick shout out. He helps put that thing on every year,
Yes.
and he did it. He took great care of us as always.
Yeah, it was really impressive. But so they bring us up to kind of the little media area, and then as the VIPs would come, they'd say, "Who would like to talk with this person? Who would like?" Well, when R.A. Dickey came up, they said, "Who would like to interview R.A. Dickey?" And nobody said a thing. I said, "I will." So I got my camera, my phone, my little tripod, and I set it up and just talked to him for a few minutes. And I apologize for being a Blue Jays fan, but he kind of chuckled and stuff. But he said something really cool in his story. He said, I came out of UTK, really good baseball team, a lot of guys, really good team that year. And he said, you think you're going to play for X number of years. And when I was almost done after I think it was his 5th or 6th season, he said Oral Hershiser and Buck Showalter pulled him aside and said, listen, that knuckleball you've been fooling around with, we think you should work on that. And he said that gave me 9 more years in the big. He said my best and most productive baseball years was after I learned to throw that knuckleball. So he said something I'd kind of fooled around with my grandfather. And he said, I never thought it would save my career and actually make the best part of it. So it was really cool to talk with him. Super nice guy, just real down to earth and stuff.
I didn't have that detailed of a conversation with him, but I just mentioned I know some of your relatives in Pulaski, and he said, "Oh Lord." He was very cool to chat with. I know our friends Mo and Chris up at Main Street Murray. They love having him on. He's been a longtime guest, and that was just a cool moment sharing that with you. As we get you out of here, we did mention I'm rocking the Michigan gear. You're technically rocking the Bama gear. You're not necessarily a Bama fan, though, right?
No. When I first moved to the States, this is kind of hilarious, but I thought you just cheered for your state team. So I moved to Florida. So I cheered for the Gators, Seminoles, Hurricanes. And somebody one day said, those guys don't like each other, right?
Heated rivals, yeah.
So it was kind of funny how that all worked out. But I kind of ended up sticking as a Florida fan all those years just because that was the first team I cheered for. So, but let me tell you something funny else about R.A. Dickey. So I was down at Auburn where my youngest daughter is.
Yes. Okay.
And so they invite us to this Sunday service, and it's a huge church. There's like 1,500 seats or 2,000. And I'm sitting in the wrong spot. So the service hasn't started. My daughter gets on the phone. Dad, you're sitting in the wrong place. You need to come over here. So I stand up and go, where are you? And she goes, I'm over here. Well, sitting right behind her is R.A. Dickey. And I
second time you met her.
Yeah, second time.
Okay.
So I said, Rebecca, someone famous is sitting behind you. She goes, yeah, that's Lila, my friend. R.A. Dickey's daughter. She didn't care who he was or if he was famous. That was her best friend. So anyways, we got to chat again and we met each other and stuff. And I met the rest of his family, which was really cool. And again, just a really kind of neat moment to share with him and stuff. And he had some of the same thoughts I did at that whole place. We were just like in awe how cool it was and that our kids were loving it at Auburn and all that. So it was kind of fun. But yeah, that was the second meeting of R.A. Dickey.
Man, so you've got 2 good RA stories already. And the third, I'm sure, will be written sooner than later.
Yes, I hope so.
Guy, we've pretty much touched on everything here, which has been phenomenal. Yeah. Anything else that you want to mention or shout out? How can people, I guess, what's the simplest way to get in touch with you or find some of your work? Because you do so much online.
Probably a lot of the stuff that I do right now is I just put it on my Facebook page and stuff, which would be the easiest.
You got to be capped on friends by now, right?
It's close. I have to go through and.
It's between you and Carmen, I gotta imagine at this point.
Listen, man, I love Carmen Brown. That guy is amazing. When we were part of the Boys and Girls fundraiser a month or so ago,
yes, I'm glad you mentioned this.
We all introduce ourselves, and Carmen says, hello, I'm Carmen Brown. I put things on Facebook. And the place went nuts.
Hey, since you brought that up, let's close with this. Tell us about your experience being involved with the Boys and Girls Club as one of their community heroes this year. It was an amazing fundraiser. I was thankful that you sent me an invite. I was able to sit with you and sit with Chris Bledsoe, another colleague of ours. How cool was that, and what did you take away from that?
Well, that was another thing. I decided I should start getting more involved because a lot of my involvement was, hey, I can shoot pictures for you, or I can do this, or make a video, which we had done for the Boys and Girls Club. One of my film and video classes at the college, we made a 7 or 8 minute, kind of like a promotional video for them, which was very well received and they loved and stuff. But then I thought, I wonder if I should get out from behind the lens. And that's when they invited me to kind of be on a little committee. And I said, what's this hero thing? And then they almost wouldn't let me say no. So it was really wonderful. Great experience. So just being with Carmen and those guys, or Chris and Carmen and the others on that committee was really cool.
Tamika was up there as well.
Tamika, yeah, she's awesome. Devin's mom and dad were there
Yep.
from up north, so it was pretty cool. I didn't feel like I belonged there, but it was really cool to be with them. So I really loved it. So.
Man, we could sit here and do this all day long. Can we get permission to bring you back on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love it. So,
Guy Schaefer, thank you so much for joining us, brother. We're been chatting with Guy Schaefer. Make sure you check him out on social media. He does so much for our community, and we were delighted to have him here on this week's episode of From the Press Box. Quick time out. When we come back, we will wrap it up with the big finish. More From the Press Box comes your way right after this on PCL.
Thomas Drugs, serving our community since the early 1900s. We're a full-service drugstore and soda fountain located in a building on Main Street that is on the National Register of Historic Places. We have a staff of pharmacists with over 70 years of experience, and we are committed to offering the best care and service to our community. We're now offering healthcare testing and treatment with positive results, a one-stop shop. Stop by our pharmacy today or visit our website at thomasdrugs.net.
Folks, final segment. It's the big finish here on From the Press Box with Wade Neely. We got a lot to tap into here in the final moments, including the tale of the tape. It was not a great week for yours truly. I went 10-6. I'm chasing Mark and Kerry. Mark is still way out in front. He's got a 7-game lead on me, and he's got a 1-game lead on Kerry. So it looks like a 2-horse race in our Fearless Forecasters. My title reign looks like it might be coming to an end. If you pick perfect in this week's edition, you'll win $600. We're also giving out a $50 gift card to Gex. Amazing food there. So that is not to be taken lightly. You can do some damage with $50 over at Gex Food Truck. So again, $600 to your winner. David Hopper was your winner last week. Shout out to David Hopper, as he was the first one on the tiebreakers, missing 3 games to get the win. College football, Guy and I talked about it a little bit. The Michigan Wolverines, I'm sitting there watching the games just like everybody else on the weekend. And I'm not going to lie. I thought Alabama was going to beat Georgia. And I honestly had thought that Louisville probably would take care of Florida State. So I didn't necessarily envision us getting into the situation that we found ourselves come Sunday morning, where everybody's sitting around waiting for NFL kickoff, but also sitting around waiting for the bracket to be announced. And so we have 6 teams gunning for 4 spots. Obviously, you pretty much assume Michigan's going to number 1, which they did. You assume Washington probably would slide all the way up to number 2, which they did after they got a great win versus Oregon on Friday night last week. And then things obviously started getting crazy. And I was in the press box at Nissan Stadium on Sunday, and you could hear the oohs and ahs when the bracket comes out. And Texas gets in at the 3 spot. Alabama gets in at the 4 spot. That means Georgia is left out. That means Florida State is left out. And I've kind of gone back and forth on this, and this is a little bit of a cop-out. I'm okay. Take all the Michigan fandom aside. I'm okay with the way things shook out. I hate it for the Florida State fans of the world. I remember the days when Florida State would be the 1 seed in this whole deal, and they would be the dominant team. But we've kind of changed roles now, and unfortunately, Florida State. Do you buy into the ad revenue and the sponsors and the ratings type component to it? I don't necessarily know. I like to take people at their word, and I think the committee said, who are the best 4 teams? Now, the real question would be if they said who are the best 4 teams right now, because you could really make a case that Georgia could have got in as well, and that was a historic fall for Georgia to slide out of the top 4 after being number 1. But as a Michigan fan, I am excited that they're sliding up to number 1, but you do got to take on Alabama. And my thought process on that is it's going to be probably your harder of your 2 potential games. No disrespect to Washington, no disrespect to Texas, but it probably won't get much tougher than Alabama. And so if you can knock off the Tide in the semifinal on New Year's Day, presumably you got a little bit, quote unquote, easier game. I think this is going to be a fantastic playoff. I think if Georgia had gotten in and maybe Texas had been left out, it would have been a real uproar. Obviously, I think if Florida State had gotten in and then Michigan or Washington or Texas or whoever ends up taking them on had just throttled them, everybody would have said, see, we told you so. You had the SEC homers of the world saying they're not going to leave the SEC out. There's no way. And it turns out that they were right. And Florida State, with the injuries, not able to do enough stylistically, I guess, to the committee to make them feel like they're one of the 4 best teams. And so I think it's going to be a great tournament. And the funny thing is we're having this crazy debate. You know, politicians are getting involved, talking of boycotts and lawsuits and things of that nature. And then this time next year, it will all be forgotten because we're going to a 12-team playoff. So anybody that's really beating the drum for reform and change, get ready because reform is coming and change is coming. We'll be at a 12-team playoff next year. So I think it's going to be fun. I say that with trepidation, knowing that Alabama is a really good team. They are playing at a much higher level than they sure were when they lost to Texas at home, and then when they followed up with a stinker versus South Florida, barely beating South Florida. And they're also playing better, at least it appeared by 1 game, than they even were before that crazy finish in the Iron Bowl. So that's all the time we've got, folks. Reminder, if you've missed any of our previous shows, you can find them online at PulaskiCitizen.com. Click on Pulaski Citizen Live. You can also find them on YouTube as well. Just search wherever you find your social media action there. Search for From the Press Box with Wade Neely. Search for Main Street Media. You can find it there. That is all the time we've got. I will see you on the flip side. We've got Zion Christian Academy coming to Richland on Saturday of this week. We've got Richland and Bridgeforth Middle School action coming your way Monday night. Next Tuesday, we've got some big games as Richland is at home and Giles County is at home versus Fayetteville. And then next Thursday, Giles County goes on the road to Mount Pleasant. Make sure you find all that in print. Grab a copy of the Pulaski Citizen. Grab a copy of the PC Sports page. And if not, check us out online at PulaskiCitizen.com. Wade Neely saying so long. We'll see you next time on From the Press Box.